Welcome everybody, Tucson Acres. So this is another beauty of living on the homestead, right? Got this 2003 Jeep Grand Cherokee and we live on a dirt road. It's wintertime up here and crap's always going wrong. Anyway, I got two new rear wheel speed sensors for the ABS, rear windshield wiper motor, and a battery. I don't really know if the battery's totally dead, but it's gone dead twice in the last 2 months or so. I don't even know why, to tell you the truth. I didn't find anything on. It was just dead. So either something's goofy with the Jeep electrical system, which honestly wouldn't surprise me at this point, or the battery's on its way out. Either way, I got another battery. We're just going to swap it out. The battery that's in there is 6 years old, so it's time anyway. So let's get to it. Show you the Jeep, show you what we're doing. All right, so we got to get this panel off of here. There's 5 fasteners, all Phillips head, 2 right here, 2 right here, and 1 right here. Now, you can't just rip it down. I personally don't do that because, well, sometimes I do. But there's little, we call them Christmas trees. They're little plastic fasteners that are kind of a pain in the butt. And if you can get yourself a hold of something like that, a clip remover, it really helps. That way you don't bust them. I mean, sometimes you really do just have to yank on them, but they seem to break so easy. These ones at the top, you can't get the tool in anyway. Now the actual motor itself, you've got one Cannon plug here. It's got a little release tab on it. Just push in on it and give her a tug. Pops loose. And then it's got 2 bolts from the inside actually. I believe they're 10 millimeter. All right, so the hold down nut is a 13 mil. I already had this off recently when I was troubleshooting it. Then there's a plastic cap you just pry off. And then there's a big nut here. Be careful when you do that. I shouldn't have done it that way because it would have just fallen right out on my head, but that's it right there. So you got your whole thing. Grab our replacement. I am going to use the original bolts. So you can see the length difference of the old bolts, the originals versus the new ones. Just looking at the two mounts here, you can see the old one, the original one, has the curvature in it. So I'm going to swap these parts out as well. That way this new one fits perfectly. All right, there's one more thing we got to swap out. So the new one just has bushings. The old one has bushings with backer nuts. The old one doesn't have, or the new one doesn't have that. So I'll swap those out as well. Now before I tighten up these inside mounting bolts, I get this stuff on the back. All right, so the first thing is this contoured gasket looking thing, then the big nut. And even though this is a big nut, it does not get torqued that hard. Just enough to squish the 2 contoured gaskets. Feels pretty solid. Smidge more. Good there. Get this plastic cap back on. Looks good. We'll get the inside bolts tightened up. So I'm gonna go, oh, I already pulled the battery out. I can't even check it. So what I'll do is I'll leave this here and we'll give it a good once over once we get the brakes done. All right, so Jeep really didn't help us out a whole lot here, but to be perfectly honest, this is not the worst I've ever seen as far as accessibility. And get these brackets and crap out of the way. This Jeep has the sound system, or the Infinity, whatever. So this amp has to come out. And just like the trunk, I did this a couple weeks ago. Right, that's out of the way, then this bracket has to come out of the way. All right, once that bracket's out of the way, then we can access the plugs. So the passenger, or the driver's side plug, is right here. And then the passenger side is tucked up under this dang carpet right there. Now, how to get them back through and out, I have no idea yet. So the next part of this, there's 8mm screws that hold the sensors into the wheel hub. So the actual sensor itself will wiggle on out of here. And it might take some prying. I wouldn't pry too hard though. And I broke it. I mean, not completely broke it, but definitely broke it. So I'm just using a combination of 2 small pry bars. And she's coming out. I think a brake tool, a brake adjusting tool would probably work really good for this too. If any part of this thing breaks off, you're gonna have to pull the rotor. I mean, breaks off inside, because that's where the parking brake assembly is. And it looks like it came out in one full piece. Great. Okay. All right, so I got the driver's side rear wheel sensor out now. It was actually a little bit easier than I was expecting. For this grommet here, where it punches through the undercarriage or the body, you just push it with a screwdriver from the bottom and it'll fold through. And then to get this part out, you actually have to kind of fold it over and get the bolt hole through the hole first, and then it'll slide up and out. They're color coded, so the cannon plug itself is gray on the left rear, and the right rear cannon plug is black. So you can't really screw that up if you're doing them both at the same time. And to be perfectly honest, I pulled the codes on the ABS system and it said left rear sensor malfunction or something weird like that. And I actually probed it and it came back with, you know, like 400 something ohms. And then I checked the right side and it was like 400. So the left side was like 417, the right side was like 433. So to me, that's no difference. Then once the Jeep warmed up after a couple hours in the barn here, I did it again. They come out around 600 each. And I just probed this brand new one and it came out around 600. So honestly, I don't think this is gonna fix it. But they were only like 30 bucks a piece. And I'm just gonna, since I've already got them, it'd be a pain in the butt to send them back. I'm just gonna swap them out. I am gonna double check that everything lines up the way it's supposed to. The new cord actually looks a little bit longer. Yeah, it is, just by a couple inches. However, the grommet matches up. The rest of these grommets match up pretty close anyway. Now I will go ahead and take this coating off of here and put it on, or both of these, this protective sleeves, and I'll put them on the new one. So the old one, I'm talking about, you gotta tip it in and then tip it side, you push it in and tip it sideways to slip it through there. All right, just so you can see the process, we're on the passenger side now. I've already untangled it from the bottom. Once it gets to this point, now that thing won't just pop through there, so you got to go from the bottom side and twist it. All right, so same thing, push it through, bend the wire over, and it'll pop right through, just like so. All right, so the rerouting of this thing really is not that imperative, as long as it's out of the way of everything. And it's pretty easy to tell, you know, where it's supposed to go. Gotta love living on a dirt road in the wintertime. Lovely under here. So now we're on the backside over here trying to get this guy in. Wow, look at that. Holy cow. It's only an 8mm bolt, don't break it. Make sure your lines are, lines have plenty of slack, especially right down by the wheel. I'm gonna call that good. Okay, we'll get the other side snugged down. We'll be done with this part. All right, so getting this bugger back in is a little bit of a pain in the butt. Verify you got everything set first, right? But I know I already do. Motor's in, everything's set with that, even though I haven't checked it yet. Just assuming, but we know what happens when you do that. All right, I start by getting these front clips, or these front Christmas trees lined up. Kind of got to do it by feel. Push them in. There's 3 of them up, well, there's 4 of them. I have one that's broken off. And then there's these metal side clips. Get those pushed in. that. And then I get my Christmas trees on the back end in place. Push those in nice and easy. The two shorter ones go on the back or on the bottom side. Two longer ones go by the motor. Don't crank these guys down with this impact. Okay, running out of parts, which is a good thing. All right, so I'm gonna wait until I have power to this just to make sure that the motor's in park position before I actually install the wiper itself. All right, so we are out of new parts, which is a good thing. Everything's installed. I'm gonna go ahead and check the ABS diagnostics, see if anything's left in the memory. Okay, so it's still showing left rear wheel speed signal malfunction. So I'm gonna assume that that's just the old code, and I'm gonna erase everything, and we will check it out tomorrow, and I'll post that on the same video. All right, codes are erased. Let's see if that rear wiper works. So it's supposed to be seated right there, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna mount it right there. Okay. Get the nut put on here. Haven't had a working wiper on the back of this thing in probably close to a year. Talk about goofy. Just can't make up its mind.